So, Squid Game was announced October 1st. They announced that it was the most watched show on Netflix yet. Great show. I watched it front to back, watched the whole thing, and here are my thoughts. I want to talk about why this show is so successful. You know, I mean, we know it's no Game of Thrones. And I'm sure, people will say it's no Breaking Bad, but it's a great show. And I love Korean dramas. I just absolutely love them. As soon as I found out it was a K-drama, that's actually what compelled me to watch it, nothing else. Not because it was number one. I didn't care about that. I cared that it was a K-drama. I love K-dramas. So instantly I went to go watch it. Now, why is it so successful? I think that a lot of shows have really taken a page from Game of Thrones. This idea of killing off your lead characters, these people that people, develop interest in or develop a connection to, and then you go ahead and you kill them. Whew. It's brutal. Ooh, it's more than brutal. But it's what raises the stakes, and that's exactly, in my opinion, what makes this show so visceral, so strong, so potent. It was the stakes. Every episode, what were the stakes? Death. And just the subtlety of if you mess up, you die. If you lose out, you die. If you don't do X, you die. If you don't do Y, you die. That idea of death being so certain. I mean, that's what we get in life, but we have, the life has length. We have time to worry about that. But this one, they raise the stakes. You have 10 minutes. If you don't do it in 10 minutes, you die. If you fail, you die. If you do this, you die. If you do that, you die. That aspect of it, well, that was what raised the stakes, made it so visceral, made it so difficult to watch, made the pressure, there were some episodes, some of the famous episodes was, if they move, they die. You have to stand still. If the camera detects you, it kills you. And the way that it kills you is it's so quick. They should just shoot you in the head. You can't even run away. You can't even recover. It's just bam. That candy, that Korean candy that you always, I always used to see these YouTube videos of them making this candy. So I was very familiar with the candy, and I saw it all over Instagram. And I had no idea it had anything to do with the show because I was familiar with this Korean candy. And the fact that they have to draw these shapes out of that, and if you don't do it, if it breaks, you die. But for me, the episode that really got me was episode 6. That was the one that I couldn't watch the episode straight. I had to pause. I paused it 100 times. I'm not even kidding. And I would go do something else because there was so much tension. The marbles episode, the ones with the marbles, there was so much tension. There was so much at risk. And now, because they were now going against people that they built bonds with, that they were close with, and now they were going against their friends. And that's what made it so difficult to watch. The people that band together, now they had to go. And oh my God, I can't remember his name, who betrayed the Pakistani guy. That was just, that was brutal. But they painted him like he was this bad guy, but everybody would do that for your life. Everyone would do that. And okay, let's talk about this because I felt that this show was a strong show. I just felt that there were elements of it that made it not as potent as it could be. And let me just give you a disclaimer. I'm not saying that the show wasn't great. It was great. It was strong. But I felt it if they focused on these elements, it would have been Game of Thrones type of level, Breaking Bad type of level. It would have just taken it that extra mile to really compel us to really care. And what I felt is though they focused too little on character development and focused too much on the story, the pace of the story, and the plot. which is, I mean, it's not a terrible thing, but I felt as though if I had more connection to the characters, those deaths would have been more painful. But before we get into that, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. It really pushes this video out in the algorithm and encourages me to make more videos. This video is brought to you by Brand Video Pros Members Lab, an online course that helps brands and influencers scale their influence in sales. Now let's begin. So what do I think about this? I think the protagonist, what was his name? His name was Seung Ji-hun, I think. Yes, Seung Ji-hun. He was an idiot. He was an idiot. And you know what? I just found him really annoying because he was such a good guy. It just wasn't realistic. Like, nobody is that good. Nobody is that good, that stupid, right? He was really dumb, which was annoying. But also at the same time, he was brave, sure. But he was dumb, but he was also competent, but wasn't competent. So him winning just wasn't realistic, but he was obviously bound to win because he was the protagonist. So for me personally, I didn't connect with the protagonist. I just thought he was like really silly. I didn't even consider him to be brave until maybe I don't want to spoil the show, but probably till the very end, he showed bravery. But before that, I just felt that, okay, fine, going again to this contest showed bravery, fine. Everybody that went showed bravery, but I just felt like his character was not compelling enough. And personally, I didn't like his character. So some decisions that he made, I think if you watch the show, you know the one I'm talking about, that he made that was like you're an idiot. What, like, personally, I was just not a fan of his. But other than him, I just felt as though if the story focused on, giving us more time with these individuals in their real lives to really understand who they are and where they come from. And I know that they say flashbacks are lazy storytelling. I know Dave and Dan from Game of Thrones love to say that. But a lot of people think the way they ended Game of Thrones was pretty lazy too. So, but hey. From a writing perspective, not an execution. Executed very well. The writing, they should have just handed it off to somebody else to finish it off, if you ask me. But, they say flashbacks are lazy storytelling. But I don't think so. I think when you think about Lost, the show, it was great when they give us those flashbacks of each character. So I just felt like there should have been no lead. There shouldn't have been any. I think there were about 5 characters, maybe 4 or 5 characters that we cared about. There were about 5. The Pakistani guy, the girl. There were way more than that. The girl, the lead guy, the smart guy, the old guy, the villain, and the woman villain. So there were 7 characters that we cared about. I felt as though if they gave us more of their backstory or more reasons to connect with them, I felt just those deaths would have been so much more compelling. Yeah, they gave us a little, like in the first 2 episodes, they gave us a little glimpse of who they were, but I just felt like it wasn't enough for me to really, really care when they died. And this is not necessary. This does not mean that they should stretch it out to an extra 10 episodes. No, I think if you gave us 3 or 4 extra scenes per character, per 7 characters, right now there are 9 episodes, that could have resulted in maybe 13 episodes total. But those scenes will just make us really care about these characters and really want to see them live and win. It would mean that each and every death, even of the villain, each and every death would have been that much more painful, would have been that much more visceral, would have been that much more shocking and difficult to watch. As quick and as swift and as brutal as they were, we would really have cared about them on a different level. The way that we cared when certain characters died in Game of Thrones. And I think that's what was missing. To really take it to that extra level of just wow, this show is incredible. But it was still a great show. It was a great watch. I think there's some shows that they could look to. Clickbait did a good job of letting us know. It was only 7 episodes? I can't remember how many episodes. Short mini series. But we really got to connect with each character. And it wasn't about their dialogue. It was just about spending the day with them and understanding who they are, where they come from, what their mindset is, what their behaviors are like. Understanding them from that perspective. And I think that is what was missing in this show. Because if that happened, wow, I think the show would have been so much more successful. So much more interesting. But at the same time, like, it could have affected the pace of the show, which is fine. Some scenes, some episodes could have been slower, but it just builds up those episodes where we actually have them playing this game, or the moments that they're, about to die. It would have just built it up that much more. It would have been like watching, what's that episode of Game of Thrones? I'm thinking about where Daenerys takes the dragon and, kills off Jaime Lannister's army. That was one of the most like riveting and difficult to watch episodes of Game of Thrones that I have ever seen. A lot of them have been like that, especially in the last season. But that was the first episode of Game of Thrones for me. Whew, can I say that? Because there's so many episodes that were crazy riveting. But I think for me, the attachment that I at that point had developed to Daenerys, and the idea that she might have died, was more impactful than the attachment that I had to any other character, like a Robb Stark or anyone. So the idea that she was about to die was so much more painful than even how it felt when Robb Stark died. And so that is what I'm talking about. That investment in these characters really makes us more compelled to them, because when the Red Wedding happened, at that point we were already invested in Robb Stark. We were already invested in him, but we didn't know that like we would soon, like a few years later, we would even be more invested in Daenerys. We didn't know that, but that's what happens. The more time we spend with these characters, the more that we're invested in them. So in that respect, I felt as though if we had spent more time with all of these 7 characters that I mentioned, it would have been that much more potent. Their deaths would have been that much more potent. Another element that I just didn't think made sense was the cop. The cop and his brother. I mean, it was a great way to show us the inner workings of the game, how it was set up, all those things. It was a great way to show us, the viewer, in a very compelling way too. But part of it wasn't realistic to me, and it was the fact that you're in this room, you're hiding in this place where your brother is. You don't recognize your brother's voice. You don't recognize the smell of your brother. Like, think about it. Like, if this is your sibling, someone that you know so closely, you're going to know the nuances of their voices, even if it doesn't sound like them, even if they have like a voice thing covering their voice, you're going to recognize even their tonality or the way that they say words. But you spent all this time with your brother and you didn't even recognize his smell. I don't know. That's the part that I didn't buy. But other than that, it was a very interesting and smart way to show us another perspective of the story outside of the game, the makings of the game, the behind the scenes of the creation of the game. And for that, I think it was great. Either way, it's a great show. Definitely go see it. And it shows that Netflix is really paying attention to quality. They've come out with quite a few quality projects this year. They're improving, and they're improving, but hey, Game of Thrones, HBO is just about to step its game up with Sex and the City. What's it called again? Fire and Blood. We know where Euphoria is going to come soon. Once they announce Euphoria's release, it's a wrap. Insecure is coming out. Game of Thrones is coming out with the heat. They're coming out with the heat. But Netflix is proving that it's quantity. This is a game of quantity over quality. And you play the quantity game and eventually you start to release some quality. That's what Netflix is doing. And we're just going to have to watch and see who wins this game. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Squid Game and why it was a successful show, how it could have been better. Please let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. And see you next time. My name is Kenim. A peace.